say?
Would you speak a sonnet for us?
Are you sure?
Yes.
Is it midnight?
Even if it was, it would seem like dawn when you speak a sonnet. Do you mind?
No, I don't mind at all. It's only quick. It's only 14 lines. Let me not to the marriage of true minds admit impediments. Love is not love, which alters when it alteration finds, or bends with the remover to remove. Oh no, it is an ever-fixed mark that looks on tempests and is never shaken. It is the star to every wandering bark, whose worth's unknown, although his height be taken. Love's not time's fool, though rosy lips and cheeks within his bending sickle's compass come. Love alters not with his brief hours and weeks, but bears it out even to the edge of doom. If this be error and upon me proved, I never writ, nor no man ever loved.
There are some wonderful anecdotes about Miriam as a child and growing up, and some pretty out there ones too, including a story about a train and a man named Hans and various
Why are you standing up over there? What's going on? You all right? That gentleman against the wall, have you not got a seat?
I think that...
Does he work here?
I think that's security.
Oh, sorry.
It's not Jeremy Hunt, I promise.
But I went to a conference like talking about my book, and I was like, oh, it would be great, you know, if you guys bought it, because my gran said to me when I told her, she was like, how much is it? I was like, $18.99, and I'm there thinking, that's so reasonable. These cookbooks are all over £20, and she was like, $18.99, Freya, I'm not buying that. Unbelievable. So I had to take her a free one, otherwise she wasn't going to buy one. So no, I don't still bake with my gran, actually.
Your book is quite spicy. It's got some good stories in. Yeah. How was the process with the legal team?
At one point, my book agent was like, I think maybe the lawyer's just not used to the direct way that you speak. But then the lawyer was like, no, you really are very likely to get sued. You can't say that someone's good at sex because
you can't say someone's good at sex
because it's their private life and they could sue you.
No wonder no one's written a book about me yet.
Someone's asked me if I floss. Yes, I floss. I hope you all floss. I hope you. Now this is a good one. Have you seen anything as a doctor that's made you want to vomit? Yeah, of course I have. Of course I have. I'll tell you about two things, actually. I'm going to put that down for a second. I'll tell you about two things. So the first one was part of my job as a GP. I do minor surgery, so I do things like remove cysts and ingrowing toenails and all of that. I love it. I love doing it because it's so hands-on and it's just a great kind of break. I know it sounds gross, doesn't it? But I love it. I love it. The juicier the cyst, the better. Honestly, the juicier the cyst, the better. So one time I had this chap come in and he had a massive infected sebaceous cyst on his back. It was huge. It was full of pus. It looked like a volcano that was ready to erupt, and I was rubbing my hands together. I was so excited about it, and I put on one of those useless plastic pinnies that they give you in the NHS, you know, the ones that's supposed to protect you against COVID. I put one of them on, and I put on my gloves, and I put on my goggles, and me and my healthcare assistant, we got ready to, and she was salivating as well. We were so excited by this. We got ready, and you know when you're really concentrating on something and you stick your tongue out? And I made the incision and it exploded. And my tongue was out. And a big bit of pus landed just there. But I am the professional, so I couldn't stop because I made an incision and I couldn't leave him. So I did the whole thing like this. And the saliva and the poor healthcare assistant had to keep mopping my chin, and she was pissing herself. She was pissing herself, honestly. You know, when you got that giggles and you're like, thankfully he was on his back like this so he couldn't see anything. Once it was over, once I'd finished stitching him up, I ran to the bathroom and rinsed, and I swear to God, I can still taste that pus now. I can.
If you could place your character in any other TV series, which would it be? Mimi Mertz. For example, the captain in Blackadder Goes Forth, or Julian in...
Robin in Casualty. Oh, this guy, oh no, he's gonna die. Charlie! Oh, is Duffy still in this? I love that he'd really be really meta. He wouldn't be sure which series he was in either.
Crime Watch. Give us the flipping money! You wazzock! Did we say sitcoms? Anything? TV. Yeah, Crime
any
Watch.
TV series.
Yeah, stick Pat and Crime Watch then, eh?
Thomas?
Well, I can't think much past sort of...
Love Island. Love Island.
Oh, wow.
Excellent.
There you go.
Yes. That's so
Brilliant.
good. That
would be amazing.
Yeah. That's so good.
That is the greatest television idea in history.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. I think you know Jane McDonald's got that cruise program. Lady Buck missed out on the Titanic, so I'm going to put her on the cruise.
She would definitely do a travel show.
I love her on the idea of on stage just going
show.
through the songbook going, no, no.
Which, hang on a minute, didn't Anne Widdecombe do a travel series?
Did she? I don't know, but I reckon Lady Button could be the new Judith Charles.
Lady Button could do Strictly.
Some of you are too young for that reference, but definitely a travel show.
Do you think that, another one of your classic lines was that along the lines of, you will do absolutely anything as long as you don't have to speak. Did you think that this was acting for you? These were performances?
I would be a movie star, film star, if it was like the silent era. I don't want to repeat lines over and over. And I never really wanted to do movies because I couldn't imagine being in the same outfit for 2 months or the same. Never.
Some movies take 5-6 months. You're on a set and you work every day, you practice your stunts, you do your sword training, you do your gun training, you do this, that, you do the rehearsals and all that stuff. It's work, work, work. I just believe in hard work. I don't believe in shortcuts. I don't believe getting around all of that or finding the easy way. You got to confront things straight on and you got to struggle through it. And I found out that the more I struggle, the stronger I get inside. Because remember that the brain, your head, is just like a muscle. The muscle grows when you give it resistance. When I put a dumbbell in my arm and I curl it up, it's the resistance that makes the bicep grow. But the same thing is also with your head. The more resistance you give it, the more you let yourself struggle, and the more you go through pain and through kind of suffering sometimes. The more you endure that, the tougher you get. And the reason why I'm saying that is specifically is because so many people today want to be comfortable. I know from my children, I said to them, what are you doing in bed at 7 o'clock in the morning? I say, are you out of your mind? What do you think America was built on people sleeping in? Or was America or England, as far as they go, so Germany, Austria, do you think those countries were built by people that struggled and that worked their asses off? So we have to tell this our kids. There is no sleeping in. We have to work. We have to work.
Andy Elliott wants to know, what do you think is the most important trait for a writer to have?
Who said this?
Andy Elliott.
Andy Elliott. Give us a shout. There you go. Hello, Andy. I'm going to tell you right now, and if I think we're all some brand of artists and, you know, creative folks in here, and damn it if it ain't wherewithal. You know what I mean? Perseverance. Is that more or less the same version of the same word?
Yeah.
I'm going to have to say perseverance in the face of it not working. We all know what that is like. Where you know what it's, where it's like, it ain't there yet. It ain't there yet. It's not there yet. I think you have to have a degree of faith in the process and your own instincts, not of doing it well, of just doing it to the place where you realize it ain't there yet. I would say that's what it is. You have to do it all the time, because the desire to be a writer and being a writer is the difference between wanting to know how to swim and knowing how to swim and going swimming.
Should we go to you? You're clutching a copy of the book. Thank you.
Can't wait to read it. Firstly, thank you so much. That was wonderful. Thank you for giving up your time to us this evening, and both also for your incredible work combined. So my question semi-relates actually to what you've just answered, but I'm really interested in how you know when you've kind of crossed the line into what could become that deeper level of friendship. And I was really fascinated that when you were talking about when you met Phoebe, you actually used some of the romantic language you were talking about avoiding, which is when I fell in platonic love with you. And I wondered, as a kind of recovering friendaholic, how you either stop yourself or recognize that moment where it's going to the next level, and whether you actually shy away from it, or how do you assess whether you can kind of let go?
What a great question.
Thank you.
I think there's a difference between demands and needs. And I think for me, if I am being friendly and someone is being friendly back, but they start quite quickly placing demands on my time, that now makes me feel like, oh, I don't think that we have exactly the same perception of what friendship is. Whereas obviously I would be there for a friend in need, like that's a joy and an honor. And so I think it's about that. I think it's about understanding quite quickly what they're expecting from a friendship. I think I've got much better at that. And there's a chapter in the book about friendship CVs, like the idea of going through and thinking what you have to offer as a friend, whether you want, this is Emma's phraseology again, to be a friend freelancer or you want a staff job. Like, be really honest about how many hours you have in your day and how much you have to give someone. And I think the other thing where you cross the line into a deeper sort of friendship is if you realize that your friendship has the ability to withstand clarity of communication and or rupture. So that idea of having a conflict, like how you manage that and whether it is managed with love. And afterwards, if you come back stronger, that's the sign of a friendship for life, in my view. And I mean, we've never had rupture, I don't think. But we've had some tricky personal situations, but I think from the very start, like I've always felt that you approach friendship with great generosity, and I've never felt that you place demands on my time, and I hope that I haven't done the same for you. So it's that sense, I think it's about working out what your metric of friendship is, because for some people it will be very important to have a weekly phone call, or to go to yoga together, or to go on holiday together, and that's all great. My metric is not actually is generosity of spirit, and it means that I can be safe thinking that my friend thinks the best of me, and when we do see each other, we can hit that relational depth very quickly. Thanks. Do you agree?
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
There's madness that's going on around us, right, Caleb? In the world every day, it's something, you know, and we can kind of list off all the things that are, at least I'll speak for myself, there are many things that I can see myself wanting to protect myself and not show up in love. But when I'm sitting with a friend and I'm listening and I'm speaking from my heart, it's like it's happened. I'm like, there it is. Like this is an act of it's an act of revolution to be able to show up and make that gesture. So that's what love means to me today, is continuing to make the gesture to show up.
And so coming on tour with the wheel has been really nice. Yeah, it's been really good. Do you remember Generation Game? All you do is push towards the centre of the wheel. That's all you do. You just push towards the centre of the wheel and you just feel the clay in between your fingers and your hands. And it's all about pressure and touch. You know, it's a really sensual kind of feeling. And obviously, you know, on the show, you can't get away from that kind of carry-on potting. You know, a lot of people sort of, to master sort of centering, for me, is like the clutch control of learning to drive. Once you've learned how to center, you've basically realized the concept of throwing on the wheel. And, you know, a lot of newbie potters, they go, oh, great, look, I've got it centered. And then they do that. And that's the thing. You release the pressure slowly. You apply the pressure and you release it slowly. I'm really good at massage, aren't I, Marge?
You are.
Yeah. Because
and
that's
making
it.
bread.
What's that?
And making bread.
And making bread, yeah. It's all about pressure and touch. And you'll notice that when I throw on the wheel, my hands are always constantly in contact with each other. Even if it's just a tiny little bit, they're always working together as one. And, God, anyone would think there was a big screen behind me. And you just let the clay come up through. You can almost feel the clay. It wants to come up through your fingers. And you just squeeze the clay. And as you squeeze the clay, you move your hands up the side of the pot. And there it goes. Anyway, I'm digressing on, Mark.
You know, I say to people sometimes, you know, the way people sort of fall over themselves when they see rock stars. Writers are my rock stars, really. For me. I'm running into actors, and I'm not like, oh, yes. I totally agree with you. Like, cool, this person is on the same flight. But I mean, I've met writers and I've literally lost my tongue. I'm not kidding. I've not been able to say anything. And Sepiata is one of those writers for me. And I just wanted to pay homage to her work, you know, in a way that I could with that. Yeah.
I've always written for people to read slowly. Because I write carefully and I write in a layered kind of way. If you read me in a great hurry, you'd miss most of what I'm doing. And I've noticed it over the years that people tended to do that. They read too quickly. They don't get half of what I'm doing or even a third of it. I talk to them about it and they're surprised that there are things in there that I'd carefully planted. And I began to wonder why this was. And I, you know, began to examine the whole process of reading, the way in which we read books. And I've come to realize that there's certain books that you can read in certain ways. Obviously, nobody would read poetry very fast. You can't read poetry fast. It slows you down by the way in which it's arranged on the page, by its meter, sometimes by the difficulty of its language. But really good prose, too, cannot be read fast. And it was Ezra Pound who said at some point, he said that, you know, poetry has to be at least as good as prose. And I think he was thinking of writers like Flaubert. He was thinking about the writers who had changed the nature of prose writing so that it was no longer just merely descriptive, but it was also in itself a very highly accomplished art form, where the prose itself was doing things that you only associate with poetry. After Flaubert, prose writing changed for serious writers. You could no longer write a sentence lazily. And I was concerned about the way I was being read, and I wanted to help people. And I only just managed to get the courage up in that book, The Age of Magic, to have that hint, read slowly. And you know the other thing, Leonie, that I really must say is that, you know, bad books read slowly become infinitely worse.
I love that.
Good books read slowly actually get better. Yeah. Great books read slowly become a truly altering life experience. The thing about reading slowly is that you actually enter into not just the world of the words and the book, you enter into the world of the writer's mind. It's the most intimate, the most powerful way to actually really enjoy a text. And since I've been doing that, I think my readers have found the right relationship with my words and with my language.
You also spoke about in your book about I guess the lack of representation of disabled people in the magazines that you were exposed to as a teenager, and how that actually, in a sense, because of that lack of representation, it kind of enabled you not to compare yourself to others. I thought that was a really interesting thought. Like, do you see that as almost a positive that you didn't have? Yeah.
I've just done a piece actually for the Guardian over here in the UK about like my relationship to how I look. When we talk about disability and disabled bodies, we often talk about ability and how we relate to our physical abilities and mental abilities, but there's also the way that we relate to how we look. And I think for a long time I thought my body was so bad inherently that it didn't occur to me to care how I looked, because I must look bad was the thought. But actually, as I've got older, I've embraced my disabled body. I like my disabled body. I actually find that unlike a lot of my friends, I don't really worry about how I look, because I just think all bodies are good. And that's kind of a core tenet of my activism, is that all bodies are good bodies. So I can't be worrying about the shape of my chin, but I think that just wouldn't fit with how I see the world. So in a way, it has insulated me from the kind of insecurities that I think are forced upon women by, like you say, the perfect people in the magazines, because they never seemed relevant to me anyway.
I think she sees herself as being at a fork in the road and thinking, I can try to be attractive as a woman, or I can really go for it in my work and not care what anyone thinks and try to be as funny as possible. And she chooses the latter path. So she thinks, I'm throwing in the towel on love, but I'm going to be as funny as I can. And if you think I'm gross, like, oh, well, it doesn't really matter because I'm not trying to be attractive. And yeah, so I think that is a choice that she makes.
I think it's also a choice that lots of women make. I interviewed last year a comedian and broadcaster who's really big in the UK called Amelia de Moldenberg, and she was saying that anyone can be hot now with enough help, but it's really hard to be funny. So she says, I would, if I had to choose, she's like, it would be great to be both, but I would always rather be funny. It's so much harder.
Oh, that's hilarious. That's a really funny observation. I mean, yeah, maybe it's true, but it's also, I think that Sally is drawn to a particular kind of like almost like bodily function humor, and specifically like it's almost, I almost think there's this thing. I mean, I remember
scatological.
Yeah, like in the movie Bridesmaids, there's this scene where they get food poisoning, and in some ways that felt to me like a cultural breakthrough, where it was very scatological humor centered all around women. And so I think sometimes, I mean, again, it is so strange where all are kind of like to think about where all of our personal and cultural biases and stereotypes come from. But yeah, like I think that she does feel almost like, well, you know, maybe I'm choosing between writing about yeast infections and being hot, and I'm choosing yeast infections. I'm talking about Sally here, not the comedian you interviewed.
Thank you. And as a way to say thank you to readers, may I sing you a song that I composed to thank readers? So actually, you know, so my book is really about Vietnam beyond the wall. So I weave in a lot of poetry, a lot of music. So from my Amerasian character plays instruments that accompany vọng cổ singing. Vọng cổ is the Vietnamese folk opera. So it's about the normal Vietnamese life. So anyone can write a vọng cổ song. It's like poetry. So I wrote this book, this song for readers, based on the format of a vọng cổ song. So I will sing it first. Should I read the translation first, or I sing in Vietnamese first?
I think sing it first. Yeah, let's hear it in its natural way to be. Yeah.
Bạn đọc ơi, hôm nay các bạn đã về đây đoàn tụ. Nhìn những gương mặt thân quen, tôi như thấy mình mắc nợ ân tình. Từ thuở còn thơ tôi đã tự nhủ mình rằng một ngày tôi sẽ viết nên những câu chuyện về quê hương xứ sở. Trong đó có những người như bạn như tôi. Họ cũng thênh thang thăm thầm những nụ cười, rồi rơi nước mắt trước tận cùng đau khổ. Bạn đọc ơi, suốt đời tôi mắc nợ những ân tình tôi mãi mãi khắc ghi. Oh my readers, today you gather. Looking at your compassionate faces, I see light, and that I see I owe you oceans of debt. For my childhood, I wanted to write stories about my homeland, about people just like you and me. Their lives can be filled with laughter, yet sorrow also brings them tears. Oh, my beloved readers, I owe you until the end of my life. Your compassion, I carry it with me always.
Oh, it's going to make me emotional. Thank you. That was so beautiful. Thank you so much.
Obviously, the first question has to be, why do men think so frequently about the Roman Empire, the big news of the moment?
I fear it is because, and apologies to all the interested men in the audience to whom this doesn't apply, all right? But I fear that for many it is a kind of safe space to be macho. You know, Rome is a very long time ago, and you can kind of be Julius Caesar, or you can really get interested in Stoicism and Marcus Aurelius without, in the kind of happy, protected area of the ancient world. And I shouldn't knock that, because that's what keeps my profession going in a way. So, and I just hope that, you know, I think it's a job of some of the men who are engaged in classical history, but particularly the women, to remind everybody that the past isn't just macho, and that Caesar was not a great conqueror, he was a genocidal maniac. And that the Romans had a softer side, and the Romans were not just imperialists. Plenty of them were, and they, you know, certainly were in part that. But some of the most powerful critiques of empire come from Roman mouths and pens.
Okay, well, I think following that, we've got to turn to Josh M's question. Are there any positives about politics right now, or is it all awful?
I mean, the weird thing is that there are a lot of positives. I mean, I work in very poor countries in Africa, and I've been living in Jordan, and I've been writing a book, and it's a pretty gloomy book about British politics, and I sort of got myself in a headspace of thinking the whole thing had gone to hell in a handbasket. And then I spent this morning walking through London in blazing sunshine, and I felt quite cheerful. Now, it's a bit of a mystery to me. I think there's one of two possibilities. One of them is that our governments are not quite as unbelievably awful as we believe, or maybe government doesn't matter that much. Maybe, in fact, in many ways, our society isn't as dependent on members of parliament as members of parliament want to believe, and that there are actually 70 million people getting on with their lives, organizing things, and in mysterious ways that we can't really understand, London often remains very vibrant and vigorous. What are the problems in our society? Deep. The most difficult problem in our society, I think, is extreme poverty. And not just extreme poverty of families, which we talk about a lot, but extreme poverty amongst the poor elderly. Social care in this country is a disgrace. And look, it's horrible being poor and young, and because we're always appealing to young voters, we talk about young people all the time. We don't talk about what it's like to be poor and 88 years old and looking after a 90-year-old doubly incontinent husband with a care worker visiting you 15 minutes a day, and not with a prospect of being fit and healthy and a future for you, but a decline. And nothing, I think, is more shameful in our society than this, and I'm so sad that these parties can't get themselves together to fix it. So I'm putting that against the sunshine and the vigor, the beauty of London, and this lovely theatre, and you, right? I mean, I think there's something very cheery about the fact that 2,500 people on a Monday evening, when you could be having a beer by the river, want to come in and talk about politics. It's a very, very unusual. I'm not sure this would be true in most countries. There's so much that's extraordinary and wonderful about Britain, but there are also some deeply shameful things that we need to fix.
So walking.
We met at 9.
We met at 8.
I was on time.
No, you were late.
Ah, yes, I remember it well. We dined with friends.
We dined alone.
A tenor sang.
A baritone.
Ah, yes, I remember it well. That dazzling April moon.
There was none that night. And the month was June.
That's right. That's right.
It warms my heart to know that you remember still the way you do.
Ah, yes. I remember it well. How often I've thought of that Friday?
Monday.
Night. When we had our last rendezvous. And sometimes I've wondered if somehow you might also be thinking of it too. That carriage drive.
You walked me home.
You lost a glove?
I lost my phone.
Ah, yes, I remember it well. That brilliant sky.
We had some rain.
Those Russian songs.
From sunny Spain.
Ah, yes, I remember it well. You wore a gown of gold.
I was all in blue.
Am I getting old?
Oh, no, not you. How strong you were, how young and gay, a prince of love in every way.
Ah, yes.